What's up, guys? It's me, Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. And in this video, we're going to be breaking down the Valorant agent tier list because a lot of characters have been moving very quickly down and up the ratings in the meta. So let's break down exactly what are the best and worst agents that you could be playing so you can start your climb as easy as possible. Now, if you've been struggling to find your e-girl in Valorant, then look no further because GameLeap has our special 50% off Valentine's Day sale. Get the godlike aim as quickly as possible at a fraction of the cost. So what are you waiting for? Stop solo queuing with one hand and check out the GameLeap website right now down below. Now, first off, let's talk about the D tier. And D tier characters are characters that fall into one or two categories. The first one are solo carry characters that might be good in ranked or when you're not doing any coordination or strategy with your team. So they typically provide very little team utility, but they help you confirm kills and give value yourself, or they're simply underpowered, sometimes a combination of both of them. And there are 5 characters in the D tier: Reyna, Phoenix, Chamber, Yoru, and Harbor. Now, I'd say Reyna, Phoenix, and Yoru all fall into that solo ranked carry category. Characters that have a pretty high win rate when mastered, and they have tools to allow them to make plays in the chaotic nature of ranked. While these are more than enough to climb you all the way to Immortal or even Radiant, they're not necessarily bringing guaranteed value to your team, nor are they going to be good for a scrim or coordinated setting. Now, Chamber and Harbor occupy a little bit different categories. While Chamber, yes, is also in that solo carry category where you could definitely play him in ranked and do just fine, he also is underpowered. He's a bit underpowered as well based on those most recent nerfs. So while you still could definitely climb with him, he is a bit underpowered compared to a lot of other characters in the game. And Harbor is just flat out underpowered. A character that has utility centered around trying to enable the team and help team plays, but doesn't have the power level to pull it off, just means that Harbor is not really a great pick, unfortunately. Now we're going to move on to the C tier, and C tier is characters that might not have a crazy high pick rate, at least in pro play, but they are still very good picks in the right hands, and they can be flexible picks in the right team compositions. And we have Neon and Fade. Neon's a character that has very specific maps, which she's really good on, and I think for ranked play, especially if you're setting her up with something like a breach stun, you can just dominate on maps like Fracture. And Fade is still really strong, even outside of the nerf she got a little ways back. She isn't quite as necessary anymore when you don't need to clear angles around Chamber like you used to, and with some of the other controllers' power level rising, there's less and less room for Fade. Doesn't mean that you can't still dominate games with Fade, and I think she's probably a little bit underrated right now. Now, the next category that we got to talk about is the B tier category. These are solid role fillers in a composition. Each and every one of these provide great utility to help your team actually create strategy to win the game. You're going to provide a good amount of base value no matter how many shots you're hitting, and each and every one of these characters are played both in high rank and in pro play a substantial amount. We have Skye, Sage, Astra, Omen, and Cypher. Now, first up, let's talk about the controllers, Omen and Astra. They're going to be a bit map specific. Like, Astra is definitely a Pearl meta pick. Omen can be played on several different maps, but is often fighting for that same pick rate as Brim. And realistically, when we look at scrim level or like tier 2, tier 3 level, controller players are being very flexible with the controllers that they play on certain maps, and you're finding less and less controller one trick. So I wouldn't be surprised if an Omen player is also like an Astra and a Viper player, hypothetically. Now, Omen in particular does give you a lot of agency over your ranked games. He's capable of making proactive plays himself, key lurks, and I think he's really, really powerful in ranked, more proportionate to the other characters are in pro play, but still, all of these characters are really, really strong. Now, as far as Cypher and Sage, 2 Sentinels, both these characters are definitely playing for second place up to Killjoy, but they're still good on certain maps. Cypher is fantastic on Split, as is Sage, and Sage is really good on Icebox as well. These characters have key moments where they can shine, but it's going to take key expertise with the character's kit, as well as trying to hyper-optimize them on the maps that they're good in, because you play Cypher on a map that he doesn't really work on, and you're going to have to get really freaking creative. While you could definitely get away with it in ranked, I think for coordinated play, it's going to be a bit difficult if you're just like forcing Cypher, hypothetically. Now, Skye is really strong as a character, definitely a really powerful initiator, but similar to Fade, there are often more competitive options for the same slot, and that's the only reason why Skye is so low. There are a lot of agents with really powerful utility, and you have to only pick 5. And after you have that initial controller spot, I mean, you're really only picking 4, and there's a lot of competition for that spot. So that is the reason why Skye is seeing less and less play, but still, fantastically powerful character in the right hands. Now, let's move on to the A tier. And I think that this is where things get a bit interesting because the A tier are packed with characters that have crazy impact potential, also provide solo carry potential in ranked, and they provide crazy utility that we're gonna see at the highest level in ranked or in pro coordinated play. Now, first off, let's talk about the two controllers, Viper and Brimstone, both of which see a good amount of play, close to matching. Viper, of course, has her strengths and maps that she's really good on, and Brimstone often has maps that he is favored on as well, due to the differences in their smokes and the fact that the line smoker, quote-unquote, Harbor, never really ate up any of Viper's pick rate. It's actually pretty impressive that Brim is able to maintain this amount of pick rate, but it also has to do with the map pools in rotation as well. Now, both these characters together are going to help fill out any controller's agent pool kit, and I also would be surprised if we saw only Viper one-tricks or only Brimstone one-tricks, because you're really going to want to be able to play either of these dependent on the map you're on. Or if you're a ranked only player, you could have a flexible agent pool by playing Brimstone on Brim maps and then not playing controller on the other maps, hypothetically. Now, these two controllers are going to be the linchpin of multiple top competitive comps and a great foundation to start any comp build around with. Now, as far as the duelist on this list, we have both Jett and Raze, two characters that could justifiably be pushed up into the S tier, but I'm putting them a bit down to keep the S tier more lean. Both of these characters are the best at initiating onto a site while still providing extra utility to help clear corners, clear certain objectives, and give them an advantage in the 1v1. Raze has advanced movement and the ability to execute on the site really quickly and gather information with your bot. Jett has the ability to smoke off and dash through, gathering information, clearing corners, and has that dash that's going to give you second chances of getting peaks, which means that on average, a good Jett player is going to be able to win more true 1v1s or have more chances to win a 1v1. Both these characters you're going to see a lot in rank just completely dominate and taking over a game because they give you the tools and the agency to really rack up those kills and win a lot of 1v1s and get a lot of crazy entry plays. But when we talk about a coordinated setting, these characters are oftentimes mainly to aggressively take space on a site, utilizing the information and the setup by your initiators to have better executes and then ultimately help your team claim space and site control. Really important job for these characters for both a ranked play perspective and a coordinated play perspective. Now, last up, we do got to talk about Breach, one of the best initiators in the game currently. Breach is phenomenal at clearing corners, setting up their team, really great on some maps like Fracture and Haven, and we're seeing more and more some flexible defense pushing playstyles with Breach, or where the defensive side goes and makes a proactive play to take space on one of the defaults of the opponent's offense. And we see that on even maps like Split, and we see that on Haven, and we definitely see that on Fracture. We're seeing that a lot because oftentimes if you can take space aggressively and the enemies are spread out, if you do a coordinated set play there with the Breach, you could get some free kills right away, and then the opponents can't rotate that easily. You have automatic more map control and more map advantage and information. And if enemies aren't there, just getting that control is phenomenal because now enemies are going to be worried about that rotation the entire game. So we're seeing this a lot, even in ranked play as well. And you could set this up with a duo or a trio. But last up, let's talk about the S tier. And there are 3 characters in the S tier, and the S tier is really just filled with characters that are kind of the cornerstones of the meta right now. They're not only the most powerful characters objectively, but they're played the most in ranked and pro play, and they should not be slept on. These are characters that you need to learn how to play against, or you need to learn how to play if you want to succeed in this new meta. First off, let's talk about KO, a character that keeps getting better and better the longer the game goes on. Having flashes that you could set up your team with gives you all the capability of being an initiator, while at the same time, you have ways to gather information with your knife, shut down enemy utility that is problematic, and you have an ultimate that allows for easy site control and site takes. KO is like that all-in-one package that really is great in both ranked and pro play, and I think that KO is just one of the best looking characters right now. Definitely hard to justify playing other flex spots or other initiators when KO is not already on your roster. It's like, I probably should just put KO in there, and that's what a lot of teams are doing. Now, next up, we do got to talk about Sova, the go-to initiator right now for information specifically, because you're going to be able to gather information not 1 but 2 ways, clear out a close angle with drone. At the same time, you're going to be able to use your dart for key executes, and you have the means to play post-plant incredibly well. Sova is a character like no other right now, and We're just kind of seeing his power run rampant and a lot of compositions on most maps, not all. Maps like Split don't really seem to play Sova all that much, but most maps play Sova a good amount, and most comps are going to run around his lineups and his setups. If you want to actually completely shut down and counter Sova, I would suggest you start tracking his recon arrow cooldown. Oftentimes, teams will be rotating, playing default, rotating to the position that they're at in time for a Sova to dart out and push in. If you could set up some sort of utility counter at the same time as a Sova arrow comes off a cooldown, you can mess their timing up and get some free kills. Now, last but certainly not least, we do gotta talk about Killjoy. Killjoy is just the best Sentinel to be playing right now. It turns out that when you basically delete Chamber and give slight buffs to Killjoy, Killjoy just becomes really, really good. And I think that not only just being able to hold and lock down a site solo, allowing your team to play extra greedy on the other side of the map, that's fantastic. But oftentimes, enemies have to really invest a lot of resources just to get through a Killjoy setup. And what is that all for if the opponent might only send like one person? They send a couple, one maybe person to go help the Killjoy out. And then if you rotate off, then you're still pushing straight into 3 people. It can be very frustrating to play against a Killjoy, but Killjoy is very powerful. And how you play around them, how you learn about their habits, and how you adapt over the course of a match against a Killjoy is going to be one of the things that decides whether or not you win or whether or not you lose consistently a lot of these matchups against her. Now, is there any character on this list that I'm super underrating? You got to let me know down below. And now, if you've been struggling to find your e-girl in Valorant, then look no further, because GameLeap has our special 50% off Valentine's Day sale. Get the godlike aim as quickly as possible at a fraction of the cost. So what are you waiting for? Stop solo queuing with one hand and check out the GameLeap website right now down below.